I'm fine, sir. How about you?
No, that's okay. I'm excited.
Yeah. My daughter does that. She has a
Stay on
bigger one.
the go.
My daughter has one of these. You guys are
Well, I don't know. Didn't probably get the rest of it.
They put a temporary implant in that is a nerve blocker.
Yeah, there's materials in there. Right.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
hereditary.
there is materials in
So
there.
they determined it was good, so took it out, I had to wait a week, and then implanted a real one. Got an
8 feet.
Oh, man. So they had to take it out, so now I'm
No,
on
the front, you have to be
15
4
daily
It has to be see-through in the front.
every day. It is 6 o'clock, so we will start our meeting for, let's see, the 10th of February. And if we would stand up for the pledge and the prayer, please. Commissioner Hamilton's out, I'll say the prayer for us. Father, we are thankful this day that we are able to gather here in your presence, and we ask you to guard our mouth and direct our minds and what we think and what we say, and we want to do everything we can do to make Valparaiso the premier city in the panhandle of Florida. Just want you to direct us, guard, guide, and direct us, Father, for we ask it in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and you may be seated. I would like to have an opportunity to embarrass Mr. Bernard Johnson and thank him for showing up tonight. Gulf Power representative, thank you for being here, Bernard. We appreciate it. So we'll get on down to our, I trust that everybody did have an opportunity to go over the minutes of last month's meeting. If so, we'll call for a question to approve.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Watson.
Is Mr.
JD, he's by phone.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and announce that?
Yeah, Mr. Denning is out in Dallas. Are you with us, Mr. Denning? Speaking in Ebonics. Thank you. Got a motion by Mrs. Watson to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Mr. Crosby, second. Any further discussion, change, deletions? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect a unanimous vote of the commission. Is that right, Mr. J?
Yes.
That's right. That is okay. Okay. Do we have any residents, Valparaiso residents, with any citizen concerns that are not agenda items that would like to approach? And if you would, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Barbara Palmgren, and I'm chair of the Heritage Museum of right here in Valparaiso. And
I'm Dr. Marie Hatton. I'm the education chair at the Heritage Museum.
Thank you for coming.
thank you. Just this will be very brief. I ran into Carl at the bank last Monday. He said, "Oh, you can come, but you'll be a non-agenda item." I said, "Oh, however it works, that'll work for us." We wanted to just share some information with you. First of all, we are having a special art exhibit called Southern Accents, Images of Florida. And so we're going to pass this information out to you, and you're all invited. We have a major reception, and everybody in this room also, and we'll leave some up here. And the reception is Saturday, February 29th from 4 to 7. So we will give you those, and we have 4 very hard stock invitations that I'm just going to leave with the mayor.
To get a special set.
Well, thank you.
February 29th. And while I'm up here, I'm going to make a plug. We also, on February 22nd, we have our 4th annual Mardi Gras Golf Scramble. And there are still a few slots open, so if we have any golfers in the room and you'd like to play, it's a wonderful day We throw Mardi Gras beads on you, lunch is included, we have silent auction items, and just a lot of fun of golf. Just lots of fun.
Sure.
Good.
And we'll put some of these on the back table over there. Do we have any left? Well, yes, we won't. Just write down February 29th. And next, we're going to be applying with your approval for a grant from the state of Florida. It's a several $1,000 grant, not too much, to do a mural on the side of the building, as you're looking at the museum, the left side of the building that faces the Glen area, where we have the gun going up and all of that. And so I have a 2-pager. It was supposed to be 3, but I ran out of ink. But the second page shows you some typical murals. If you've gone up to Baker Block, you know how beautiful that can be. And so the project, we haven't designed it yet, but it's going to have to be designed within the next month because the due date for the grant is March 2nd. But the images on the mural would include the pioneer settlements, the early century trades, the industries, the fishing industry, transportation, the American flags in reference to Eglin Air Force Base and the 5 flags that were over Northwest Florida. So I will have Marie give you these. Hopefully we have enough for everyone. And that's it. But we would just, if you don't mind, if there is a way we could just have some approval to go forward with a mural that would be aesthetically pleasing. And when we do have the grant and we have the design, we'll bring it back to you so you can actually see what we're proposing.
I would certainly make a motion to let you go forward with that. Absolutely.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Crosby. Do we have any further discussion from the board? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All-
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you.
you. And remember February 29th, and reception, you'll
Free food.
what time is it, say 47 on the 29th?
Yes, it says February 29th, 4 to 7.
Okay, do we have any non-residents that might have something they want to speak to the commission board about that is not an agenda item? If not, we'll move on down to added agenda items. Do we have any? No added agenda items. We'll go to item number 1, then resolution number 0402-10-20. This is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Valparaiso, Florida, authorizing the city clerk to pursue financing opportunities which will benefit the city, authorizing a request for proposals to facilitate the refinancing of all of or a portion of the prior loan from the Florida Municipal Loan Council is further described herein, providing certain other matters in connection therewith, and providing for an effective date. And I won't go into all the whereas and what fors, but I certainly would make a motion that you have that opportunity and that authority. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Watson. Do we have any further discussions on it? Or do you want to say anything about it, Ms. Tammy?
This was actually the Florida League of City approached me on this. And we've had this bond for 10 years, so now we can go out and see if we can find some better rates. And they believe that we can, and this bond was all for the utility fund. So with this approval, we'll just start looking and see what we can find.
Okay. We'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Let the record reflect the unanimous vote of the board, please. Okay, we go down to ratify purchase Microsoft Office equipment. I believe that's what you had talked to me about already, Ms. Tammy.
Yes, this, something I believe that we talked about a couple months ago with the cable department. Our email went down, and this was, we wanted to ratify that we've already have started working on this, and to purchase this to get our email up. A lot of us have our email up. I believe the commissioners are yet to get theirs up, but that is coming. And this price was,
He said we're
Oh,
I
they're up
asked him
now?
right before the meeting.
Okay. Everybody should be up now, okay. And this price is, we're looking at, this is 13,770, but we don't have the exact price yet, and it's looking like it's probably gonna be less than this, because it did not take as many, mailboxes as we initially thought it was going to be,
That's good.
so.
Good deal. Well, I would make a motion to accept that because I think it's something we have to have.
Well, and I think the issue was, the city kind of was forced to do it, so it's here before you tonight to ratify those actions of staff, so they know they can proceed forward.
Well, I think we knew it was coming, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We talked about it last meeting.
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion on it? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect the unanimous vote, please. Now we'll move on down to resolution 0502-10-20, increased cemetery interment rates. And who has cemeteries?
I do.
You do? Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Crosby?
Yes, from what Nathan told me, this is an increase from our contractor. We're not increasing anything to do with what we are responsible for, but we have to absorb that extra cost in some way, so, and it's the minimum amount, kind of thing.
Well, I'll certainly make the motion to do that. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Crosby. Is there any further discussion on it? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect the unanimous vote of the commission, please. Certainly something we have to do. If we're being charged extra, we have to pass it on. There's no way around it. So we move on down to proposal of utility assessed inventory and condition assessment. I guess, Ms. Watson, is this something you carry? I think Nathan was probably going to speak to this.
This was Nathan, this is Commissioner Denny.
Denny, okay.
And I don't know if he could speak on this. I know this is something that is in our budget, that we did budget for this. And he brings this for you to, I guess, go on with this.
I did-
Commissioner,
Not very clear, Jay, not very clear. Gotta have it.
Yes, sir.
Is that a motion?
Competitively bid. And I just talked to Nathan before he left for Tallahassee tonight, and he reviewed with James and talked about what we need to do, because we think it's gonna be a great thing for the public works and the city.
So
I think this
I've
was to
read
do
through it
streets too.
And they're gonna map all the water and streets and everything we need to get updated. We've talked about it before in these meetings, how old our charts are, so.
We actually started this 10 or 15 years ago and it never has been kicking the can down the road. So I think this would be a good idea to go ahead and adopt this and let it move forward, because this will be a job for somebody who's gonna do every day till it's finished.
I think the other part of it was, we're gonna piggyback off of somebody else's contract.
Right.
And so that's part of the reason we need the approval.
And Tammy, you said that the 30,000 or so and change has already been budgeted for?
Yes.
Yeah, I think because I saw this last budget process that's coming down through the pike, so we kind of budgeted and set money aside, so we're not taking out of reserves. So,
Make a motion that we approve.
motion by Mr. Crosby, have a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Watson. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect 4 votes and a growl. So I think the motion passed with a unanimous vote of the commission. So we'll move on down for, I'm glad we got you a new computer here, Jake. We'll go down to proposal for utility asset and inventory and condition assessments.
That was what we just
That's
did.
what we just
Yeah,
did,
we did.
okay, we're going down to this variance on 314 Johnson Parkway for a front yard variance. I trust everyone's had an opportunity to go over this.
Could we pull it
James?
up on the map?
Yeah, James, can you bring up, I took a picture of it.
Oh, perfect.
Can you, that should be there. I'm sorry, it's not coming up for you like that.
Oh.
There we go. It's, The first one is 314, the one requesting it, and I just took a picture of their next door neighbor too.
And that's on Johnson Park?
That's on Johnson's Parkway. It's over the bridge heading to the Eglin.
Oh, okay.
I think those used to be Mr. Tweedle's, if you're,
Yeah.
if that rings a bell with you.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right, if you want to step
I
in.
had, if you notice,
State
Had about
your name and address for the record.
Sam Phillips, 314 South John Sims.
Thank you.
I had about 35-foot tall Leland cypress trees that Mr. Tweedle planted 20-some years ago. And they contracted a fungal infection and died, had to be taken out. As I said, they were 20-some-year-old trees. What I want to do, and it's very noisy, it's right on John Sims, is to put up an 8-foot privacy fence, 6 feet behind the sidewalk, across the front, for noise abatement. To keep some of the traffic noise that the trees took care of over the last years. Between Grandview and Montana Street, which is our block, virtually everything except for our 2 houses is privacy fence, 8 foot tall.
On Johnson Parkway?
Yes, sir.
You don't, there's trees, I think, in front of the
There's, right.
fence, that's why you don't
there's-
notice it.
That's the only problem I would have with it, is just having a blank fence there. I mean, if it were trees blocking it, I've never noticed the other ones, so I guess that's the only problem I would have with just seeing a bare fence there. Plus, it's against our ordinances as well.
Well, technically it's not, but I just didn't feel comfortable because the building inspector by our code, 98-174 and section C says that I have the authority to, and under special circumstances, to grant height variances. So I could have done it, but I didn't feel comfortable without you guys being aware of it. So, because it's right on John Sims. You know, we had the front yard streetscapes and we're always trying to do things in the front yard. Well, you know, to put an 8-foot high privacy fence with 0 borders would be very noticeable. Good side, of course, will have to be out because that's a rule. But, you know, so.
Are you planning on coming back in front of the fence and planting some kind of foliage?
I planned on, I hadn't really, because it's grass behind there as it is all the way down the street. There's a lot of scrub oaks and such. If I was to put something in front of it, yes, I definitely would if the city wanted me to. And it would be something much more appropriate and eye-pleasing than what's down the rest of the street.
But I just want to tell you, I went back through our minutes, and I was like, well, why, why did we put that in there, that you couldn't do? I think it says, what, 4 feet or something?
Yeah.
4
That's what it
feet in
says.
front of it.
And I went back, and I gave you guys all a copy, but I just gave it to you today. Back in October 1993, the commission, I guess at that time, talked about fences and front yards, and I guess at one time, they wanted to avoid having what, I guess, somebody had put up. So, I don't know, that's just, was there for you guys to look at.
Well, honestly, it looks so much better with the foliage cleared. It looks neat and tidy now. Whereas before, you always wondered what was behind all those trees. Because I used to walk by there a lot. Now I'm too lazy, but
So the variance isn't related to putting a fence in the front yard because the code allows that? It's more for the height?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put a 4-foot tall fence that's see-through in the front yard now, as long as it's not in the right of way. He'd have to be right to the back of the right of way. However, code allows the building inspector to decide if he could do something different under special circumstances. However, this is like a super special circumstance.
Yeah, because it says you can approve a greater height, but as far as a privacy fence versus one that can be seen through,
Yeah.
that would be also part of the variance request.
Different, right.
Because
Right.
the code allows for a certain type of fencing, and he's wanting to put a privacy fence. So that's obviously not see-through since it's privacy. So it would not only be the height, which I think Carl's correct, he could deviate from that to some degree, but the variance would also be the type of fence and the materials used for that fence, since it would be a privacy fence versus he said see-through?
Right, yeah, just, slatted.
Slatted.
Box.
Balusters, but that doesn't really do what he wants done. He's trying to block noise,
Right.
and it's not gonna block noise with a see-through fence.
Right, there would be no combination though, like slatted with vegetation, kind of.
Well, I think
in
that,
between.
the commission can decide, if they wanna do something like that, if they wanna build a privacy fence and plant ligustrums in front of it, or lauropelums, or, crepe myrtles, or whatever you wanna plant, because all those are fast-growing and they make hedges in a hurry.
I have a yard full of hedges, I'm not a fan of hedges.
Well,
I have a couple of pictures if anyone likes to look at the existing fence
okay.
and the foliage that's in front of it. That's all the way up and down the road. There's, scrub oaks down there all the way up to the sidewalk. It, really is not pleasant to look at. And mine would be, lifelong planks of privacy fence and well kept up, of course.
One of the situations with those two, though, is there's very few houses that face John Sims. Yeah, two, and they're that, so,
The rest.
they don't
So
need
those
our
aren't in the
blessing.
front yard?
Those aren't in the front yard.
Side
so-
yard?
That's right, and they don't
Okay.
need our blessing for those.
But they still go the length of the street with 8-foot privacy fence.
But we're almost having a couple more right by the bridge they'll be facing,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
three more.
Those brand new ones.
You didn't see this, Ms. Wilson?
You probably see it if you walked it.
I did. So as the commissioner of streets, once you do something like this, then everybody who walks up and down the sidewalk complains about how the bushes scratch them when they go running by.
Well, I didn't want to put bushes there.
No, I'm making conversation about it.
Why didn't this come before the plan? It's a variance.
Well, variances are dimensional in nature, and this really isn't, it's a special circumstance. We normally wouldn't see anything like this, so that's why it didn't come before the planning commission. It's really a commission decision.
Could you get by with something shorter?
With the rise of the yard, it just wouldn't do the same job, I don't think. And what all you'd be seeing is more of the house, more of the, rather than it, looking from the sidewalk or the road and seeing the roof. You would just see more of the house. And it's,
Well, it's certainly up to the commission, whoever wants to make a motion on it, one way or the other. I'm not really in favor of 6-foot fences like that right there in your face on the street.
8 foot,
Say again?
8 foot.
He's asking for 8 foot.
Yeah, an 8-foot fence right there, right in your face. I mean, it's just,
It is something we ought to talk about, with those new houses right there on the bridge too. Because surely they're gonna come before us eventually and say, wow, it's really loud here.
and if we approve this, we're not gonna have really a leg to stand on if we don't want them there.
Well, to that, each variance is taken on its own merit, so just because you pass a variance in this matter does not necessarily mean legally you have to pass a variance in another. So,
I understand that, but I think we would have a precedent set already for a better foothold for them.
right, that's what I'm saying, you wouldn't be setting a precedent if you agreed to a variance here, you'd still have to take the other matter on its merits. So, I mean, that's always a concern, I represent several boards that's part of their job is to do variances and, they wanna be consistent, but, each case, each property is unique in its own self and, based on the needs of the property owner, you can grant one in one case and not in another as long as you've got a factual basis and they can't just come in and say, hey, you granted it for someone across town, therefore I get it by default. So, but definitely, what you gotta do is just take into account what you have before you tonight from the applicant.
I'd like to move for approval.
Got a recommendation for approval by Ms. Watson, do we have a second? I'll get on board with Ms. Watson and second it, I don't like it, but, I mean, I guess Carl was strong enough feeling about it that he thought it was
Could
a
I
good
don't know,
suggestion.
can I make a counter motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to pass it through the planning board to see their recommendations and come back with us with a approval or disapproval from their study?
Well, that's all right to do that, but according to the building official, he has the authority to do it without going through the,
Well, I think he has the
Height.
authority for height, but I
Yeah.
mean,
They
really,
can't do
there's,
structural.
right.
They can't do structural, so you,
Okay,
yeah.
that is, okay. I just-
He could do
They're
height, but he
dimensional.
couldn't make it solid.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay, I withdraw.
Well, I've seconded the motion, so do we have any further discussion on it?
well, I would like to see you just condition that motion and that, you know, because there should be, you know, it doesn't have to be right on the property line. Make them move it back, you know, so we don't get the bushy scratches on, you know, the runners going by the sidewalk. And do some kind of, you know, aesthetic planting along the fence lines, because in 5 years, if you were to plant lead cypress again, they're gonna be 6 foot tall, and you ain't gonna see it. It's just, you know, I think it's, what we ought to do. In keeping with what we're trying to do all over the rest of town, aesthetically. You know, we wanted to pass front yard streetscapes without it.
Can I make a comment? The daycare center, previous years back, they required them to put a solid privacy fence between when Doug Phillips sold his property. And he planted cedar and cypress trees there. They were not full length, and the privacy fence got rotted and they tore it down. We made them go back up, but this time they put a chain link fence with screening on it. So I can see Carl's point, but those cypress and cedar trees are now full bushed out, and they keep a lot of the noise down. The other is just for aesthetics behind it, to keep the people from having to see the children and the children standing there at the fence looking at the neighbors across the street. So I can understand where Mr. Scott's going with that direction.
Would
And
the
you have to
applicant be
remember
opposed to
too-
that if the commission made that a
Excuse me,
condition? I said, would you be opposed to that if that was a condition?
which condition?
To move it back
To
closer
move
to
it
the
back
house.
further so you could do some landscaping in front of the, in
Oh,
between the
that's-
roadway
I
and,
had said from the, when I said 6 to 8 feet, I meant from the sidewalk, not from the road. From the sidewalk. My yard's, got a beautiful, St. Augustine sod, which would be kept to the fence and including it's in good shape. I don't have foliage out front. That is on the sides of it. There's, if you walk from Grandview to Montana, you know, they're at the corner of Grandview, they put in new 8-foot privacy fence. Of course, they didn't have to ask because that's the side of their yard. But it's also the same as the front of my yard.
But they
Same area.
didn't go in front of their house with it either.
No, they did not, but it's on the same plane as my house. It's still on John Sims right there.
Right.
And that's newly installed privacy fence. The rest of the street is old 8-foot privacy fence. I think it would look much better what I'm gonna put up than what is throughout the block.
so the motion's been made and seconded. The commission can proceed with the motion on the floor, which is to grant the variance to allow him to put up an 8-foot privacy fence in the front yard with no condition for any landscaping.
What is the distance from the front of your house to the sidewalk?
Let's see, the tree line, I'd say probably between 40 and 50 feet, 40 feet probably, maybe only 30, that's to the sidewalk.
Sidewalk's in the right of way though, because you
Yeah,
can't
it's
build in the
right-of-way.
right of way.
Yeah, I understand.
So we don't know how far that right of way, you know, the big right of way is on John Sims, 125 foot right of way. So, he can't build in the right of way at all.
He has to show you where he's gonna build it though, right?
Yeah,
Right,
when
you
he-
have to bring a survey in.
yeah,
So it's gonna be back behind the sidewalk anyway?
Oh, yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
by 6 to 8 feet behind the sidewalk.
Is that where your property line is?
That's
give or
where they-
take.
I'm not sure
General-
exactly where the variance would be from the center line. I'm quite sure because of the easement in front is a good 20-foot piece before the sidewalk.
Right,
And then there's the yard, which the trees came within about 3 feet of the sidewalk before they died. And where I'm looking at putting them is where the trunks of the trees were. That's where I'm looking at putting the fence.
well, you understand, like, you would have to have a survey to show that you weren't building, because those trees might have been in the right of way, and they were probably okay to be in the right of way, but to build a fence in the right of way would not be allowed.
I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel better about that, moving it back behind that sidewalk some, but as it's already been stated, you're gonna have to do that anyways, not build on the right of way. So,
There's a rise from the sidewalk up, and before that rise even levels out is 6 to 8 feet. And it would be up there for a fence. So it would have green grass in front of it. There wouldn't be scrub oaks in front of it like the rest of the block.
well, we do have a motion and a second, so do we have any further discussion on it? I mean, even though I'd like to see some kind of planted foliage in front of it myself personally, and the amendment could be, the motion
Do we
could be
need to
amended.
finish with this one? Or do we do a new,
Well, you can amend your,
Yeah, I mean, you could look to amend the motion, I mean, in the right of way, I mean, the city could, they wanted to put something in there.
That's true too. We can plant whatever we
I
want
mean,
right away.
If you really want, I mean, you know, the property owner wouldn't have to get permission anyway to plant stuff in the right of way. So if the city felt after the install that it wanted to put some foliage out there just to spruce it up, I mean, it would just be at the city's expense.
I think the Commissioner of Streets would buy off on that.
You
I
know,
know her, I think she might.
get
Thank
in
you,
with the
Judge.
commissioner.
well, that being said, then is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect a unanimous vote of the commission. Good luck.
Yes, sir.
Some of those big grassy things.
Mhm.
I didn't hear from Mr. Denny on that one.
I think I
He
heard
did,
something,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like that.
That's a
Always
yes.
do like jasmine
Morse
too.
code.
Okay, we'll move on down to resolution number 0602-10-20. A resolution to approve the sale of a surplus piece of equipment from the city of Valparaiso and providing for an effective date. Tommy, you want to address this since it belongs to you?
Yes, sir. I'd like to see if we could put that up in auction. It actually has no value. I talked to Mr. Denny and also Public Works Director, and said that it'd been down there for some time and gathering a lot of water in it, so it has really not much value.
Well, I would make the motion to do that because we certainly don't need it.
Well, we are doing this retroactively. We have actually, I believe you talked to Commissioner Denny about it, and we have already auctioned this vehicle
Oh, yes.
because the auction came to town, and they thought it was the best interest to go ahead and get it in that auction. So, and Commissioner Denny, I was told he approved it to be done. So we did it, and I
Well, I guess
believe
we
we
need a
received
motion.
$550. Yeah, we're retroactive.
Okay.
So are we going to vote on it, or are we just going to accept that it's been done already?
So you have to vote to retroactively approve it.
Gotta jump in your time capsule and go back.
Yep.
I guess I'll jump in the time capsule and go back and make it retroactive to do this.
And
There's a
I'll,
motion.
and I'll second it retroactively.
A second and retroactive. Do we have any further discussion on it? Okay, I'll call for a retroactive vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the whole board is retroactive. Unanimous. Now we move on down to, I believe, our Gulf Power contract.
So we got the clean water litigation.
See, oh, we're going under old business for this, okay. Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't see any paperwork on it.
No, there is no paperwork. What I was gonna do is advise the commission, we've been approached by, some law firms that are dealing with clean water litigation. You may have heard about it before. There's been kind of a ramp up on it as far as man-made chemicals, DuPont and other companies that use these chemicals in fire retardant on base. Anyway, there's multi-district litigation involved, similar to what you might have recalled from like the Deepwater Horizon, how everything was done in Louisiana or in Texas, and then it applied to everywhere else. This is being done in South Carolina. My understanding is the city of Niceville's either looking at doing it or may have ended up going with this firm. I spoke to Dixie Powell. They've approached us. I told them, obviously, I'd have to bring it up to the commission. There's no evidence to suggest that there's anything wrong, with Valparaiso's water supply. However, their idea is if the military was using this fire retardant foam on base and throughout, and if it leached into the aquifer, then there may be chemicals that are in the water supply that the city may at some point need to use filtration systems to get out. There will be testing on that. It's basically one like you would probably hear, there's no payment to the attorneys. It's a contingency fee basis. So there's only recovery if they are successful in getting any awards or damages for the city of Valparaiso. They've sent me a contract that I've been reviewing. It'd probably be best and easier just to sit down with you one at a time and kind of go over any questions you have. But before getting in too deep, I just wanted to bring it up to the commission, see if this is something that you wanted to explore. What would happen is, should we decide to go with them, and I brought their materials, that the law firm that is kind of handling this and front and center is the Fraser PLC, which is out of Tennessee, and Beggs and Lane, which is another fairly large law firm that does plaintiff's work. So anyway, I have some materials I can show to the commission. Again, I just didn't want to go down this road if there was no interest. I did find out and confirm that the U.S. Air Force is not a defendant in the case. This litigation has already started, so this isn't something that we're going to be, brand new. Now they would add us to the case. The current list of defendants that they have is ChemGuard Incorporated and Tyco Fire Products, Kitty PLC, Fire and Security, UTC Fire and Security AmeriCorps, Buckeye Fire Equipment Company, Chemcor's Company, which is part of DuPont, 3M Company, National Foam Incorporated, Dynex Corporation, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and Federal Express Corporation. Again, the only reason why they've approached us is because of our proximity to the base. As I said, imagine kind of like looking at a map. If the base is the hot zone in the center as it goes out. To me, having looked at it, spoken to Mr. Powell and other attorneys in our firm, I don't know, I couldn't find necessarily a downside, for the city. They'll do the testing. They'll let us know. That'll be at no cost to the city. They'll take samples from our wells. If they find something, then, if we're part of the lawsuit, then they can seek damages on behalf of the city. That money can be used in the future by future commissioners to, purchase filtration systems, things like that, for the benefit of the citizens. If the good news is, hey, there's nothing there, the city isn't out any money. So to me, it's kind of a, no-lose situation for the city. But again, I don't want to suggest at any time that they know of anything or that we know of anything that there's anything wrong with the water system. We're not representing that. No testing has been done. But I can tell you I've heard of them, they're not the only firms. There's other firms that are involved in it as well. So part of what I wanted to do tonight is either get permission to go forward and engage them, or if you want to sit down and have some more information about it, I can get that, and we can proceed and deal with it at a future date. So It's really more of direction from the commission on what you would like me to do. And, you know, there's nothing to say that if we sign up with the firm, get involved in the litigation, find out that it's not something that we want to do, you know, you can always extract yourself out of litigation, you know, as far as the commission decides, hey, this isn't for us, you know, take us out. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if I can.
So the military and Eglinton or any of the surrounding bases around here is not going to be defended in the case?
No, they are not, and like I said, if it turns out that they will be, you know, then that might be something that the commission, you know, that's sitting at that time may want to take into consideration. I knew we would be sensitive to that, so that's why I made sure of that before even bringing this up at a commission meeting.
Well, it sounds like it would be a good thing to be involved with, but I know as me personally, I would not be interested in it at all if the military or the bases were going to be defended in it.
Right, and I don't foresee that being the case. I think it's one of those, you know, they were a consumer of it, so to speak, using the fire retardant, and it was presented to them as being a safe alternative. Obviously, they were using it. Some of these things, you know, may or may not have been known by DuPont and those other companies, and I think that's part of what the litigation is about, is to see, you know, did they know, and if they knew, did they withhold that from not only the military, but, you know, the public in general. And that's why I said, you know, you hear about some of this stuff. There was litigation a few years ago, they got a movie about it now called Dark Water, about similar, it's not the same stuff in that case, but very similar man-made chemicals that DuPont was sued for, you know, that was causing damage to farmlands. I believe there's some birth defects. I haven't seen the movie. I just know generally kind of what some of the allegations were. So again, that's kind of a very rough estimate of what it is. Like I said, I didn't want to go down this road too much further until I knew this was something that the commission was interested in doing. Again, I've looked at it. I've spoken to other attorneys. We couldn't necessarily find a way that, again, there's no out-of-pocket for the city. There's no money at risk for the city. And if there is a recovery, you know, then that money could be earmarked for those types of things. So again, and I don't suspect that we're going to know 6 months from now or a year from now. And this may be money that never comes in, or maybe come in after we're all gone. So,
Or it might be $5.
right, you know, we don't
before.
know. But I mean, I guess the idea is if you're not at the party, you're not going to get, you know, anything from it. So
I don't see any reason why we couldn't pursue it and let Mr. Dykes, you know, kind of put a feeler out there and see what he can find out about it further than what he has. That's just my thought, and I'd like the input from the other commissioners as well.
I make a motion, we allow him to proceed.
Ms. Wilson?
Second.
You want a second?
And just so I'm clear, by allowing me to proceed, does that mean engage them as far as, and let them know that the city would be willing to enter into, or is this just to get more information? I want to be clear on that, because, I mean, they're ready, you know, for us to, you know, basically sign up, but I don't want to tell them, yeah, that was the vote, unless it's clear, you know.
So this would include a sampling plan already, or is that not until it would be?
I don't think they would want to put the upfront costs out until they know that we're going to sign up as a client. Because like I said, they're not the only law firms out there doing it. So if they went out and tested and it came back positive, and then, you know, we end up signing with another firm, you know, then they're going to be, you know, somewhat upset.
Yeah, they would only come sample if they had some kind of reason to think maybe they might be able to see.
Correct, and I mean, like I said, I spoke to Mr. Powell, who's the attorney for Niceville. My understanding, if they haven't done it, you know, his recommendation was to go with this firm. Again, that was the first time I heard about it, and my understanding is they were looking at Niceville, and they said, hey, what about this city over here, you know, what part, you know, who's this over here that's even closer to the base? And they said, oh, that's Valparaiso. And then, you know, they reached out to me.
So, Mr. Colby, is your amendment?
I make a motion that we approve and go forward with the company. Since we can always pull out anywhere where it doesn't agree with what we want.
Right. So to go ahead and let Mr. Dykes entertain it with the other
Entertain it,
attorneys,
so
not just
yes.
to seek more information, but to go ahead and enter into it. Ms. Watson seconded.
Second, no.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect the unanimous vote of the commission, please.
And what I'll do, Mayor, is, based on the vote of the commission, I'll get the final draft of the contract and get that over to you. We can circulate a copy to all the commissioners, so you'll see it as well. It's basically, you know, as I said earlier, one of those where there's no upfront cost to the city, and they'll handle it. The attorney, Mr. Rowe Frazier, he's actually on the executive committee for the lawsuit. And again, I mean, there's probably 20 attorneys that are on that executive committee, but he is one of the 20. So at least we'll have someone who's involved in the litigation pretty intimately.
Okay, with all that being said, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Oh, they-
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, they already voted.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, I just was saying,
I didn't.
They voted with you.
They
With me?
voted with you.
I was in on something I didn't know I was in on? That's no wonder I stay in trouble at home. Okay. So we're going down to old business, Tom's Bow Bridge update. Ms. Hamilton is gone. I noticed they are driving new pylons,
Yeah, I heard him this morning.
so they're moving forward with that. How about, Carl, the property foreclosure update? Is that Mr. Dykes?
That's me.
Okay.
That's the Washington Avenue property. That's the one with the family. You may recall, last year, you had a hearing on the matter to do cleanup. Ultimately, we were not able to get out on the property and do the demolition, so we started the foreclosure process. We have served one of the daughters. We have not been able to serve the wife and one of the brothers, so we published, which is basically published in the newspaper, notice, and once that runs, then we'll be able to proceed forward with likely defaulting them. So the process is moving, foreclosure's going forward, it's just taking some time.
Okay, which one you,
We're having some difficulties with the new houses that have been built in that area. They've got a lot of new kids that have came in the neighborhood. And that is a rather attractive nuisance. We've had 3 to 4 calls with the kids being in the house.
Ooh. That's not good.
That is not good. We're trying to get it done. It's just, we can't go forward if.
We're in our 11th year, 11 years.
We're gonna get it done.
but look how close we are.
We're close, we're good.
Well, hopefully this will be the last year. We will get it done this year. So.
Okay, well, that's good news.
That family's not gonna secure that building. Should we just make efforts to secure it ourselves?
Well, I mean, I think if you do something in the right of way, keep out or whatever, as far as, I mean, it's still.
It's
considered
posted
private
no
property.
trespassing,
Yeah.
but by whose authority, I don't know who put the sign up.
I mean, probably the best bet is just as much policing as we can do to kind of discourage.
We've
if they
got it
know-
on our list.
So if they know that, the chief is gonna be out there or his officers, hopefully that will become less of an attractive nuisance. They wanna go in there and see what's in there then.
Yeah. Okay,
We're just not there.
we'll move on down to our ordinance number 699 with the Gulf Power franchise. And I did see some change in some of the verbiage on this, so I'll let Mr. Dykes
Yeah,
speak to this, please.
before you read, I mean, there was a last minute change in the version that I provided to the city clerk that was attached to the agenda. Essentially, it was in section 5A, dealing with the timelines. If you look at the original version in 5A, the second sentence, it says commencing 90 days after the effective date hereof. That was Gulf Power said that was a scrivener's error. That should have been 60 days. And then a little further down, you'll see the reference to grantee's monthly billing period ending 60 days prior to each such payment. That was another scrivener's error, and that should have been reflected as 30 days. And other than those changes, as the commission may recall, I told you we were doing some negotiating for City of Fort Walton Beach. We had the issue of some language in section 10 that would allow them to not make payments to the city if there was a dispute. Gulf Power took that language out. And the other language you'll notice is in 5B, which talks about the fact that should Gulf Power end up negotiating with another governmental entity within its service area, that the city of Valparaiso, that commission, will have the ability to renegotiate another franchise fee as well. So they reference it as a favored nation. So in that instance, say the city of Fort Beach or Crestview, or even maybe somebody, Milton, goes out and negotiates a 7%, and we're at 6, and the city wishes to negotiate a 7, then this option would be allowed. Now, it wouldn't allow, because as you know, Gulf Power was, absorbed into,
Florida Light and Power.
I'm sorry? Yeah, Next Era Energy, and, so they service Central and South Florida. It wouldn't apply there. It only applies to the areas up here in the Panhandle that Gulf Power, I believe that's Pensacola or Panama City, is that?
Right,
Okay.
Pensacola, Panama City, in the areas of like size for this community.
So,
So that being said, do we want to go ahead and read the title of the ordinance and move forward on the first reading?
Yeah.
That would be my thought. This is ordinance number 699, an ordinance granting to Gulf Power Company, its successors and assigns, an electric franchise imposing provisions and conditions relating thereto, providing for monthly payments to the city of Valparaiso, and providing for an effective date. And I'm not going to read the whole title of it. I think everybody's had an opportunity to do that, so I would make a motion to move forward with this.
Second.
Second by Mr. Crosby. Do we have any further discussion on it? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect the unanimous vote of the commission, please. Do you have anything you would like to add, Mr. Johnson?
No, sir, unless there's any questions.
You're good shape?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming. We'll move on down to TPO and DOT reports.
Well, one interesting thing for TPO and DOT is the county just passed some ordinances about scooters, e-scooters. In cities, people are really divided as to whether they like them. But in our county, they're just treated like bicycles. So if you get a scooter, you have to follow the same rules as bicycles do on the roads. There's a TPO meeting at the end of this week, so if y'all want to come with me, you can.
That's why we appointed you. Anything else, Ms. Watson?
No.
Mr. Carl, stormwater, anything?
No, sir, everything's,
Still running?
I can tell you that we have taken the next step to, on the stormwater situation on Plastics. So that's become a code enforcement case now, a true code enforcement case.
Good. Okay, Ms. Watson, community liaison report?
Nothing new to report.
Nothing to report. Regional sewer? Mr. Denning thinks that's all great and going on very well. Planning commission update?
Here I come.
Tom Browning, Planning Commission Chair, and we got just a couple of things to go over. We had we had a workshop at the end of January, discussed the map, and the age of it, and the fact that most of it's not up to date. We had a couple of recommendations that fell right off the top as, dead bang easy. And if you look at Indian Shores, it's actually rated R2. And we believe the easiest part would be making it R1A, because there's not a single floor plan in there that makes a townhome or a condo. So that was our first recommendation to the commission. Second one would be, we were talking about the removal of the historical zone in the middle of Old Valpy there. Nothing is left, according to Carl. It hasn't been touched, improved, or upgraded. So they don't maintain their historical value on those commercial properties. They wouldn't do anything for the houses that are already in there by the Historical Society. We got an education on the Historical Society and how much they've done in this city, because Miss Tammy got us a flyer with 22?
Yep.
Handful of homes that are all in there as historical. So,
Historical registry.
the Historical Registry, thank you. And everybody on the planning commission were all the same mind when we said we get these variances the day of the meeting. And so my solution to that was to propose that we have a workshop at the end of every month, a week and a day before. Get your variances in on that date. We can go out and look at the properties that are in question. And then we can vote on it on our meeting date following month. Makes us meet twice in 2 weeks, but it resolves our issue with wanting to be able to walk the property and look at what they're asking for and be able to say yeah or no. And that was what we wanted.
Gives quicker service to the people asking for the variance.
If
too.
they would get it in time, because Carl will be the first one to tell you, they come into the city hall the day of the meeting because they found out there's a meeting. And it's not easy to tell them, well, you won't be seen until next month. You know, but
That's what every other city does.
Well, we don't really have a choice, you know, we have to advertise 14 and 5 days before a meeting, so the minimum that we can do is 17 days before, because Tammy needs 3 days to process with the paper.
Right.
Then it's posted 14 and 5, so that's the minimum that you can have.
but us having a workshop of the variances in that 2 weeks,
So you only want a workshop when you have a variance?
just a workshop. We're having a workshop whether we have a variance or not, is what
We
we're
got a
saying.
rezoning coming up this month.
We do? Really?
Yeah, we're not gonna let y'all look at it, but we, yeah.
I don't have the paperwork yet.
That'd be special.
I just know it's coming.
That'd be
Just
special.
kidding, Tom.
So I need to put this on the calendar. So you're gonna have a workshop
A
every
week and a
month?
day.
And what day is that?
It's a Monday.
What, Monday,
Monday.
first, third, second?
What did we figure out? The last Monday of the month. Last Monday of the month. Before, because we meet on the first Tuesday of the following month, so it's usually a week and a day. Hopefully.
And so you'll be having one this month?
Yep.
Okay.
We are also gonna
And that's
ask,
a workshop only?
just a workshop only.
Okay.
That way we can play around with ideas or whatever we got, and we can present it to y'all and have a little better understanding of what we're talking about. And variance delivery workshop, February 24th is our next workshop. I hope I got that right. I did good. We have a rezoning next month, really? Some news does, right? The whole city, what are we doing?
I don't know.
No, a property,
A property,
a property.
so we're spot zoning.
No, you're not.
You'll know when you get the paperwork.
Yes, sir.
Can we get the paperwork in plenty of time to where we can look at it?
You can get it as soon as I get it. I ain't got it. I can just tell you it's coming.
Appreciate it. If you let them know next time you see them,
It's supposed to come in Thursday and file the papers.
okay, that'd be good. Other than that, I wanted to refer you to a couple of goals that have been suggested before. I promised that I would support it, so we're gonna go with the strategic plan's goal number 2 was to encourage, support the beautification of commercial, residential neighborhoods through thoroughfares and public spaces. Streetscapes is part of that, and it came out very nicely. We got that front door to street. Do we need to expand on it? It's a question for y'all. How about, they used to do yard of the month. Garden Club was the judge of it. I don't know who's in charge of the Garden Club anymore, but it's just one of those things Valpy used to hand around. It was kind of cool. One thought, goal number
It
2.
used to be Miss Harrison, but
Miss
I
Harrison.
don't know, she doesn't live in Valpy anymore.
Oh,
So
so
I'm
they
not
need somebody
sure.
else to step up, huh? Just a thought.
Is the garden club still active?
David, yes.
They are? Okay.
Do you know, is Miss Harrison still, she might be still on it, but
She's still there, but she's not the president anymore. I'm not sure who it is, but they'll meet Wednesday at the church in downtown, Presbyterian Church. So I'll try to find out who's down there,
Okay.
what's going on with it.
Good idea. The other one was to set up a community barter exchange on the Valparaiso website so residents can help each other.
Like a volunteer kind of thing?
Licensed contractors, including handymen, service guys, carpet cleaners. I mean, anything and everything that somebody might want to trade for something else. But why not do it? You know, we got that scroll of basically business cards on the cable page.
mm-hmm.
Why couldn't we feed that into the web page?
I have no idea.
It's got their phone numbers on.
I do not know anything about that.
I'm just saying, if it was on the web page or a link to
Yes, we don't
those
have
people's.
I mean, I don't know, because there are so many rules, ADA compliant and all
Right.
that. I do not know. James might know.
It could be done.
I have no idea.
But that was just a piece I wanted to say. It was a good idea. There's not a whole lot labor intensive, and it was a suggestion out of the strategic plan. And wanted to make sure y'all knew that.
So who would be the person to,
Manage it?
well, the only person the person that manages the city's webpage is, we pay Tony Shipley, who did it when he worked for us, and we kept him on as a contractor to still do it for us. So he would be the one to do it, but I don't know who would be the person to get him the information.
I think James just volunteered.
Well, if it's gonna be contractors, it'd be Della and myself, and our handyman.
But that's bartering.
What's that?
No,
I
but
mean, we'd have to ask what they want to barter, right?
I don't think you can put barter in there if you're gonna list licensed
I
contractors.
indicated in there that bartering isn't a good word. We wanted to make sure that people know these things were available in the city. Not that we gotta exchange, trade, this kind of thing. We just wanted them to know what was available in the city.
And it's the same thing as that scroll.
Mhm.
I don't know if I understand.
Just to support our businesses, I think, if
Local.
I'm comprehending it right, to let them know what.
What
businesses are-
services are available in Valp through any
Oh.
business out here, so.
Okay.
Everything we have advertised on the cable has worked in the city,
So
so.
we just want
Wow.
to take what people want to put on, like our crawl,
Mhm.
or I'm gonna, that's still what it's called, that we would put that on our website, right?
Or a link to the files, at least showing the, because,
And
you know, they
that's-
roll in those, it's PowerPoint, I believe, but they roll in those slides saying, you know,
Right, so
Power
what we're gonna
washing
do, I
is
mean, it's for the
painting and-
people who asked to be put on there.
sure.
We're not gonna go out and put everybody on there who hasn't asked, or do you want all the businesses on there? Because what happens
If
then,
it's
we have
on
to
the,
keep up
if it's
with.
on the Valp scroll for the cable page,
That's all,
Yeah.
they come in and they bring us
they
information.
bring
so
you
it's
what
just
they
those.
want on there.
Okay,
Why not put it on the webpage too?
okay.
So is this a revenue thing? I mean, do they pay the cable system to put
No.
their
No.
thing?
They have to just have a business inside the city, and we do that. Cable
So
does it
that's
to support
different
that.
than the Chamber of Commerce, which is, you have to
Yes.
join the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, you have to pay the chamber. Might be a new, I see your thoughts there, and that hurts my head, stop. Anyway,
Anything else from Mr. Tom?
so we asked about getting R1A status for the Indian Shores area instead of R2, and that would be y'all's job to do. We can do all the paperwork behind it and bring it up again if that's what you want, but this is the askance. Is that what y'all agree
So
with or
what
want
is
to?
R1A?
Single family residential, what it is right now. I mean, actually, that's what's being built there.
Well,
But it's zoned R2.
but
Which
if
means
I
you could
wanted to
have
go and
condominiums,
subdivide
apartments.
one of those big giant houses, then I couldn't do that anymore.
Probably not.
And doesn't somebody from there have to ask, or no? Or,
No, the city.
I believe I have somebody right here on the,
why not? I mean, but
He's the
there's,
one-
but there's an expense, you have to send out letters and all that to all the residents in the area.
yeah.
And usually the person who requests it pays for that.
Come on up forward, Mr. Chambers, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Thank you. I chatted with many of the residents of Indian Shores, and I also was under the impression that we were R1A. And when we found out it was R2 and found out what could happen in R2, they just went ballistic. I said, hey, calm down, we're gonna be okay. But the homeowners association was supposed to have a meeting in March. I was hoping that it would have one already, but they would have one in March. So I really couldn't get to them and let them know about the R2 status that we're in. But everybody I chatted with who lives in Indian Shores, I mean, they were under the impression that we were 1A. And when I told them, no, we're not, they really want to see that change as soon as possible.
So we should just give you guys what the expense will be, so you can take that to them?
Well, it's about 60 of us, and probably what that expense is
No,
going
I
to be
mean,
rather minuscule when you really think
Right,
about
when
it.
you break it down.
Right.
Yeah.
We talked about this the other day, because you said the advertising expenses was about $350.
Right.
And we gotta do it twice, and we did the math, and it's gonna be about $20 a person if they want it done. So if they come back with us, then we have to write an ordinance changing the future land use map first, and then do a massive rezoning, because we only have to do 400 feet from the property boundary north, and they're all R1A, so there's gonna be no objections. So I mean, all this was already discussed.
Is there a lot of vacant land there?
No.
No.
So, what
Now-
difference does it make?
I have a question, because I know years
Does it make a
ago,
difference, like if Les Chambers today wanted to tear his house down and build a
An
triplex, he could do it. He could build an apartment complex if he could meet his setbacks. He could go vertical. So, I mean, there's a lot of, you change that whole dynamics of that neighborhood because they're all single-family residential now.
could it be even though they have a homeowners association, wouldn't they have to go through that to do that?
Yeah, but they couldn't stop them from building it was zoned to build.
Yeah, I know years ago, because this has been brought up for years, and one of our commissioners said, and I don't remember where he said it, but he said, if we do that, then the park, I guess there's a park in there, it would no longer be a private park to that area. It would then become a public park.
I don't see how it would change the park being.
Because I don't know, because that's R2, and R2 you have, I don't know, it was Commissioner Billingsley, and he usually was pretty much right on, so.
I don't know if you went to R1, then it would change the status of that park.
I just remember that being said.
Well, I mean, it's a,
And maybe they don't care if
And,
it's
and
public or
that
private,
park
because I mean,
that park isn't used that much. We have our cookout there once or twice a year, and that's when it's really used. Other than other people who want to use it, go and sightsee, go on the little dock there and just look at the water.
I think that park is private property until, it's owned by the homeowners association, unless you
Right.
donated it to the city. It's not a park to us. It's just another lot.
right. That's why I didn't think changing it to R1, it would do anything to
I
the park.
don't think that applies.
But I think most of the people would like to see R1A there, rather than being R2 what it is now.
Yeah, and I told you I'd be more than happy to go to the homeowners association and explain, what they have now as opposed to what they could have.
And that meeting will be in March, and we'll
Yeah,
be getting
just let
in
me
touch with you on that, so we can do that. Very good.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Tammy, if you could maybe give us maybe what the expense would be, but we can have that at the meeting where we can just kind of,
I think Carl, yeah, so
It's $359, we advertise it's $359, and we have to do it twice.
twice,
So,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
so you're looking at $700 worth of expense and divided by the 60 people.
don't you have to, you don't have to mail out letters? Or
Yeah, but we're only looking at probably 25, maybe.
Okay.
And they're already
It's
R1.
like.
Yeah, there already are one.
That's like,
So they're not gonna oppose it.
yeah, it's like $100 extra for.
And I'm gonna run away now, bye.
All righty. Regional sewer, doing okay, I think Mr. Denny said. Planning commission, we just met, Okaloosa Gas District, Carl?
Okaloosa Gas District's doing great, everything's fine there. But since the next one's department updates, I just want to give you all a heads up that in the last week, we've added $1 million in ad valorem tax value in 2 houses, 2 permits, 2 5,000 square foot homes.
Wow.
That would be right outside your R2 zoning.
How much?
Where?
$1.1 billion in ad valorem tax value
Portugal landing.
and 2 houses, 2 permits.
Okay, any department updates of any?
Mayor, if I may, we
Yes,
are
sir.
testing hydrants right now. If you get a complaint about dirty water, please notify us of what area it's in so we can go flush those hydrants.
Okay. Did y'all hear that?
We can have the attorney collect for some filters.
Yeah.
Years from now, maybe, years from now.
Yes, sir.
I want to show y'all the new launch pads we just got in. These were provided to us by our plant organization, which is above our co-op out of Panama City. They gave the county 88 of these devices. These are for children to use, ages 3 to 5, and these are all learning tools. And these are pretty impressive little devices. The one I have here deals with transportation. It's called All Revved Up. And I gave y'all a box to look at that you can kind of play with if you want to for a few minutes and see what all we have for the kids nowadays.